Dan Baer joins us now. Dan, the former U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, director of the Europe program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace these days. So these European leaders, what do you think they make of Trump's threats, A, Dan, but B, more importantly, what can they do about it? The Axios headline says that Europe is weighing a quote-unquote bazooka after Trump's tariff threat, with the French president and others reportedly calling for the EU to deploy its anti-coercion instrument, a 2023 tool never used that could restrict American companies' access to the European single market. So is that the road they'll go down?
Well, time will tell, Connell. I think Europeans have no choice but to take the president seriously. Obviously, he's repeatedly made the threat that he will, by hook or by crook, have possession of Greenland. And Europeans are stuck in a difficult position right now where they need to decide how to proceed with dialogue, as the previous segment said, how to try to lower the temperature, but also to make it clear and convincing that they will take action if necessary in order to dissuade President Trump from doing this. And so they're going to be walking a tightrope for the next few days, trying to both offer dialogue and also be credible with their threats of a response. I think it's really important for viewers to understand that the anti-coercion instrument, that bazooka that you referenced, in addition to the tariffs that President Trump is threatening, both of those will raise prices here at home in America. Both of those will affect jobs here at home in America. And so the costs of this exercise, the cost of this adventure is really rising as we look at the future. And I think one of the things that as you look at the Greenland situation, there are several things that are true. First of all, Denmark has been a model ally in many ways. Denmark stood shoulder to shoulder with us in Iraq. Denmark was the one that stepped up when we needed help removing chemical weapons from Syria. Denmark is a model ally. Second, we already have access to everything that we need from a security or an economic standpoint with respect to Greenland. The Danes and the Europeans have been very clear that they want to continue to work with us on Arctic security, that they want to continue to work with us on critical mineral supply chains. We have all the access we need, which means that this is really a very expensive vanity project for President Trump. And, you know, his allusion to the Nobel Prize kind of underscores that.
You're right, this linkage apparently in these text messages with the leader of Norway on that Robert just talked about a moment ago. What's on the line here, though? You talked about some of the potential economic consequences, and maybe in the short term after today being off for a holiday, we'll see how the financial markets here in the U.S. react, the stock market and that kind of thing. But longer term, is it something bigger? We've been asking the question throughout the show, and I've got a number of different answers about whether the NATO alliance itself is on the line. And if this goes sideways, the future of NATO could be in doubt. How do you see it?
I think the future of NATO definitely could be in doubt. And I think there's a bigger principle here. We, the United States, after World War II, invested in building an international system that had respect for sovereignty, that had respect for small states being independent, et cetera. And that was a system that benefited the United States and many of our partners and allies. And really, by taking a kind of Putin-esque view towards Greenland and threatening to undermine international law, to take it by force or to coerce the Europeans into quote-unquote selling it, President Trump is really undermining that international order that America has benefited from significantly. And what people need to understand is that if we go to a world in which we don't have allies, we don't have friends who cooperate with us, that is a world that's much more expensive for the United States overall for security. That means we're going to have to spend a lot more. We're going to have economic consequences. And that means taxes will go up or debt will go up. Either way, in different ways, it means Americans will face a greater affordability crisis. So these actions are not just about Greenland. They are about the broader system that we have benefited from. And dismantling that system will be very expensive for us.
That's I noticed you keep coming back to that, and it's obviously on purpose expensive, and talking about the potential consequences for real people in economic terms, which is a good point. Dan, thank you, Ambassador Dan Baer.